Hey, good morning. It's Chuck here at Garden Spot Acres. I'm inside the goat barn. And we need a set of stairs to get up into the loft. Our goal today is to make a simple set of loft stairs that anybody can make. And you don't have a bunch of complicated angles. But before we get started, we have to make our stringer. Here's one that I've already made to fit my application, but everybody's application should be basically the same, and the only thing you might not have is this little knockout here that I had to put in. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you the math behind making the angles, the angle up here, the angle on the floor, and we'll go into the shop. I'll show you how to do the math, how to cut the angles. And then we're going to look at the simplest way to build a set of loft stairs, or even a set of stairs for a tiny house that takes up minimal amount of room. So let's go ahead and measure the distance from the floor to the top of the floor in the loft. Let me get my tape measure and see what that is. From the floor to the top of the loft floor is 80.5 inches. And I arbitrarily measured out 4 feet where I want the bottom of my stringer to end. It's only an 8-foot wide room here, and I didn't want my stringer ending, taking up too much space in here. Right. I also didn't want to put my stringer against this wall, even if it would have been more convenient. It just would have been a head height problem up here. Right. So I moved my stringer in here. Your application may be totally different, but this will work in all applications where you can, where you have the room to put a little set of loft stairs in like this. So 80.5 inches from the floor to the top of the floor up here. Again, I arbitrarily went 4 feet from here to here, okay? Let's go on into the shop and I'll show you the math. How do you figure out your angle here and here so they sit nice and tight like these do. All right, we had a height of 80.5 inches this way. We want our stringer to come out 48 inches this way. Our stringer is going to be here like that. That'll be the top of the stringer hitting the top of the floor over here, the top of the stringer here. And this is a right angle. So we want to figure out this angle here and this angle up here. So we're going to go back to your trig days. Who remembers SOHCAHTOA? So let's figure this angle here. Once we figure this angle here, then we can just subtract the sum of these two angles from 180 to figure this angle out. So we don't only have to use trig once, okay? So let's call this theta. So we want to do, what do we have? If we're oriented here, we have the opposite side and the adjacent side. So let's go through SOHCAHTOA. Sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. The cosine of an angle is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is equal to opposite over adjacent. So if this is the hypotenuse here, and here's our angle, this is always going to be hypotenuse because it's opposite the right angle. We're not dealing with the hypotenuse, so we're not dealing with sine. We're not dealing with the hypotenuse, so we're not dealing with cosine. So we must be dealing with tangent because we have the opposite and the adjacent given to us. The opposite is 80.5, the adjacent is 48. So tangent of theta is equal to 80.5 over 48, or the ratio of 80.5 to 48. Let's take my calculator out and see what 80.5 divided by 48 is equal to. 80.5 divided by 48. 1 point, there's your number again. Hit the second function, so you end up with tan to the negative 1 power. Okay. Hit that, you get 59.19 degrees. So let's say it's 59.2 degrees. This angle right here is 59.2 degrees approximately. It's close enough for our application. So if that's 59.2, that's 90. We can add 90 to 59.2, get 149.2, subtract that from 180, and we end up with 30.8 degrees for that angle. Okay, make sure we did that right. Take the calculator. Let's add these together. 90 plus 59.2 plus 30.8, 180 degrees. So the three interior angles of a triangle always have to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so that's the easiest way to do this. All right, so I'm going to take my miter saw now, and we're going to take our 2x6 stringer, and we're going to use these two measurements right here, 59.2 and 30.8, and we'll cut the ends of our stringer to those two angles. Then we'll have our perfect fit in our situation. So how'd we do that again? We measured the height from the floor to the top of the floor in the loft. We got 80.5 inches. We arbitrarily said, hey, I'd like my stairs to end 48 inches away from the base here. So I used 48 inches. You could use 50 inches. You could use 46 inches. I just wanted to get it so it wasn't so steep. It would be difficult to hit. I didn't want a ladder, but I didn't want it to be so far out that it was taking up too much room. So I thought 48 inches looked good. So we drew our right triangle. Put 80.5 here, 48 here, and then let's say we wanted to find this angle right here. We called it theta. So we use tangent because we have the opposite side and the adjacent side, and tangent is equal to the opposite over adjacent. Tangent is a ratio of opposite to adjacent. So we set up our little equation here. We said tangent of theta is equal to 80.5 over 48. We divided that out, got 1.67708. Took our phone, went to the scientific. If you don't know how to do that, here's your calculator. Make sure your rotation is on. Tip it. You have your scientific calculator. We'll clear everything again. And we did 80.5 divided by 48, we came up with that number. We hit second function, go to the tan. Now instead of tangent, it's tan to the negative 1 power. Hit it, and there's your degrees, 59.2 approximately. Okay. So we got 59.2. We know that this is 90 over here. So 59.2 plus 90, add them together, subtract that from 180, and you end up with 30.8 degrees. Right. All right, now that we have our angles figured, we have one more thing to figure. We didn't need to know the hypotenuse to figure out the angles in our situation, but we most certainly need to know the hypotenuse in order to see how long we have to cut our stringer. So let me take another page here. Here's our drawing again. It was 80.5 inches this way, 48 inches this way. So now we need to know the length of our stringer from long point to long point. So our stringer actually looks like this. So here's the side of the stringer. So we need to know how far is it from here to there. So again, this is a right triangle. Who remembers the Pythagorean theorem? The Pythagorean theorem says that the square of this side plus the square of this side is equal to the square of this side, which is the hypotenuse. So the square of this leg added to the square of this leg is equal to the square of this side here, which is called the hypotenuse. You probably remember it as a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the a is a leg, the b is a leg, and the c is the hypotenuse. So what we're going to do is we're going to square 48, the leg. We're going to add it to the square of 80.5. We're going to take those, sum them together, and that's going to equal c squared, hypotenuse squared. Let's see how much that is. Let's go back to the regular calculator so get bigger numbers on it for you. So we have 48 times 48, 48 squared, is 2,304. We're going to add that to 80.5 times 80.5. Remember, squaring is multiplying a number by itself. 6,480.25. That equals, together, equals c squared. So we're going to take that, add it to 2,304. And we get 8,784.25 is equal to c squared. Now, obviously, our stringer is not 8,784 and a quarter inches long. That is the square of the length of our stringer. So in order to figure this out, we have to square root both sides to isolate the c, which is hypotenuse. So now I'm going to go back to my scientific calculator, and I'm going to do the square root of that number. Okay? It is right there. You see the little X with a little 2 in the for the index? That's square root. And look what we get. 93.72. Now 0.72 is approximately 3/4. So for our situation, we're just going to do 93 3/4 inches for our stringer. Okay. Let me run through that one more time. 48's a leg. The 80.5 is a leg. We squared both of those. We added those together, got 8,784.25. And we take the square root of that number, and that right there gives us the length of our stringer. 93 3/4 inches. So now we know that. Now we can go to our saw, cut our stringer to 93 3/4, and then cut the ends so they have the angles on them. Okay, let's go to the saw and get this thing cut. All right, our first cut's gonna be the 59.2. Right there. 56, 57, 58, 59, just a little touch past the 59. Now I haven't cut this to length yet, so I'm going to make sure I don't cut any more than I have to here. Right on the edge. Okay, good. Now we had the 59.2 as the bottom angle. I'm going to show you something. It's not the bottom angle. The 59.2 is actually the top angle. Here. So that's the way it's going to go in. So whatever you do, you can't be wrong. Just cut one of them at 59.2 in my case. Cut the other one at the 30.8, and you can't go wrong. It's just the top, what you thought was the top is going to be the bottom. All right. So I'm just leaning that up against here. I just want to make sure that I end up cutting the correct way. So I'm going to mark that down there like that. Our total length is 93 3/4. So I got to cut this off at the 30.8 degrees this way, from that point right there. All right, 30.8. Here's 30, 31, back it off a little bit. Right about there. Come in here, do a little mock-up. And there it is. And we're going to leave it right there for today. It's getting really hot out here. The next video, remember my videos come out on Wednesday morning, Sunday mornings, both days, 6 a.m. So we're going to leave this video right here. And on the next video, I'm going to show you how to go ahead and put the treads in without doing any complicated angles. All right, thanks for coming along this far. Make sure you tune into the next video. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.